Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Life Vancouver. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. I'm so excited to welcome you to our show. We aim to inspire you with each and every episode as we bring locals who are making a positive impact in their communities. Today, we have a very exciting episode ahead. Right now, first up, I have leading relationship and love expert and matchmaker and founder of Matchmaker for Hire. I'm talking about none other than Jane Carsten. Jane, welcome.
That's quite the intro.
Well, welcome to the show.
That's a big expectation. Yeah.
She is the pro when it comes to dating, romance, and love. And Jane has been doing this for the last few decades, so it's over 22 years.
Yeah.
So as temperatures warm up in Vancouver, lots of hopeful singles, including myself,
Yes.
want to know about some dating tips in our post-COVID era. So I would love to hear some feedback from you.
Yeah, I think that, we've all had a different style of doing everything post-COVID, right? And we're so used to being online because we couldn't go anywhere, that now it's like we're open, we can get out in the wild now. And I think a lot of us have, when it comes to dating, it's hard to get out of those bad habits and thumbing, right? Passing, swiping, thumbing. It's easy from the comfort of your home. And you miss out on a lot of opportunities by doing that now, and getting out there and getting back to the old-fashioned ways of dating, meeting people, is what everybody really needs to do.
Do you find, I'll speak for myself, that social skills have been impacted since then? And, I now sometimes have to make a conscious effort to, not listen to a podcast, not listen to music while I'm grocery shopping.
Right.
How can I be more open when I'm just going out in the world versus, staying plugged in? Because if you're listening to something, how is someone actually going to approach you? So I would love to hear what sort of dating tips do you give to your clients? Not just when they're with you, but how can you be more open to love when you're out in the world?
Right, right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, about getting back to old-fashioned ways. When I think about 22 years ago, when I first started in matchmaking, and I kind of stumbled into matchmaking world. I wasn't a matchmaker, nor was I setting up all my friends and family. A friend of mine had a dating service way back then. I used to work for a large consulting firm back in Toronto, and that's where I'm from. And 9/11 hit, and we lost 5 employees in the planes. And it really hit me that, what am I doing? I don't even really like this job. And she said, you'd be great at this matchmaking thing, and why don't we do that? And Vancouver, and out I came and started the business from scratch, and started working to build a database of singles who were really looking for something different and selective. There wasn't really even email back then when you think about it. And there definitely wasn't dating apps.
We had pagers.
Yeah, pagers, car phones, in your car, built. Boy, am I ever dating myself now. But the reality is that, and it's come a long way. And it's frustrated the last, and I hate to talk about the pandemic because I don't even really think about it anymore, nor do my clients. They don't want to think about it anymore. It's in the rearview mirror. It's all about positive and getting out and meeting people. And it's just created a lot of habits that they're hard to break.
So what are some of the positive habits that you're trying to enforce into your clients? And I feel sometimes, like me and Tiara, my camera operator and co-producer, we were talking about how Vancouver can sometimes get this rep for perhaps being cliquey, and our inspiration behind doing our show is to bring individuals like yourself who are getting out there in the communities, creating a community yourself. So what tips do you give to your clients, or what can you share with our audience today that how can we be more open to the world around us,
Yeah.
especially if we're wanting to be successful in our romantic life.
Yeah. Start saying yes, right? I think that a lot of people, they're looking for the negative instead of the positive. What is the harm? And I always, when I talk to clients, if I'm going to refer them to someone to go out to meet someone, it's just a drink, right? And it's meeting someone, it's networking with somebody. Worst case scenario or best case scenario, we're forgetting about the networking because really good people know other really good people. And sometimes, we are 1 degree away from finding our right partner. It is right in front of us. It really is. And the more open you are, and the more you're open to explore. Now, sure, it may not be the person that's in this room today, and they may all be married, but maybe they've got friends. And now it's time to start looking at ways to increase your social circle physically, not online. And, not ask them to be your matchmaker, because our friends are our worst matchmakers, friends. And I have a rule, I don't matchmake any friends or family. Don't do it. I'm too close to it. But some of the good things you could say to your friends, the friends that you like to be around. You mentioned to me earlier, you're going to be in your best friend's wedding. How wonderful is that? You love them. You love being around them. What a better way to find friends of friends of friends. Start asking to go out. When you're going out next time with your friends, invite me. Doesn't mean matchmake me, just invite me, because when you look at it, really, 3 out of every 10 people are single. And really, 50% of them are seriously looking to meet someone. So if you're going to go out with a group of 10 people, your odds are down to 4 could be single, and 2, are maybe possibly share the same values you may share. But if you don't get out and try, it'll never work.
I actually never heard it the way that you're putting it, and that is such a great point, that putting yourself out there. I've seen some memes on Instagram or even on TikTok, and I am so guilty, because it goes like, okay, I'm looking for the love of my life, and but I'm just gonna stay at home on a Saturday night. I feel like such a grandma at times, like when you're working on several different projects, and I have my beautiful dog Loki. I don't know if you can see him on camera, he's just sleeping here right now. That you just want to be at home, you want to watch whatever show you want to watch, drink your tea, and then it becomes comfortable to do the left and right, versus I guess it is more vulnerable to put yourself out there, whether it is interacting with people, going to an event, or just showing up, and it comes so tell me about
it takes work, right?
Yeah.
And it takes commitment, and it's how bad do you really want to meet somebody. So maybe you are that 50% of the single people that really doesn't want to meet somebody. So
I'm not.
maybe but sometimes taking a dating refresh. Okay, I'm going to really think this through. What do I really want, need? We all want to be with someone. We don't need to be with someone. Sure, we want the right person, but it's no different than finding the right house. You can't just magically find it on MLS listing. You need someone to help guide you, to take you to the houses to fit.
Completely.
And sometimes it's hard work, there's no doubt.
And something that you were talking about earlier is I want to touch base on is values. So we can find different people attractive, but to make something work long term, what do you think? Like, what are the things that you tell singles that what to look for beyond just the physical beauty?
Well, I think that, and it's very common for online to put the prompts, right? What you want. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I want. Instead of actually getting to know you and your values better. And it can be as simple as, what do you like to do? I like to do a Zoom with my family. I love my family. So it starts to share all those values that are important with you, your podcast that you like to listen to. So instead of being on the negative, be on the positive. Here's who I am. Here's my values. Because we want to date like wants to date like, to a point.
Mm-hmm.
But so if you can really show yourself, your true self, versus what you think you want, or I don't want this, or I don't want to drink, or I don't want this, more positive, value-based, you're going to attract like.
That makes a lot of sense. Now that brings me to online dating.
Yeah.
Our favorite topic.
Yeah.
So I must say I have a few profiles. Now I would love to hear from you. If, for example, someone comes to you and says, how should I show myself online? Like, what kind of photos should I put up?
Mm-hmm.
And what you were just referring to, showing some of your personality, like who exactly you are, versus becoming this version of you that may not be in touch with who you really are.
Right.
So what are some of the tips that you would like to share with our viewers that how to create a good online profile, including photos and what you put in the prompts?
So I, through COVID, because everybody was like, at that point, I even thought, oh my God, my business is over. But I started to restructure some of the services that I offered to help some people with their online profiles. Because that's all we had there for 6 months anyway. And then people started to go for walk dates and, felt more comfortable with it. But so I had an opportunity to dive into the online profile world, and it was quite interesting because a lot of people really didn't pay attention to the most important things. Photos, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much photos are one of the top things. That if you don't have a good photo, if you don't have, you need a face, frontal shot, smiling, to show your personality, and then you need a full body shot to show, this is how I'm going to show up on a date. This is what I look like. Key and important. I've had some clients, I've met them in person, and that's part of the process that I do to go the extra step to get to know my clients better, is to meet them in person, face to face, not Zoom, face to face. Because your first date is with your matchmaker, really. And I've got to see if it works for me too. But I also am just saying, yeah, I'm verifying for you that you are who you are. And I can refer you based on that verification. One gal I met, she was gorgeous when I met her. She'd sent me her photos and they were okay. I really expressed to her the importance of good photos. And that would make the whole difference because she described to me the kind of guy she wanted to meet. And I knew with these photos, she's not going to get that kind of guy. And so that led to an expectation versus a reality. If you want to meet a guy like that, you've got to be looking like the girl that he's asked me to find. And I sent her to my photographer, the gal that I recommend as a photographer. She did some dating photos along with some business shots for her. Why not? Everybody's should have their photos updated. What a difference. Every gentleman I sent her profile to wanted to meet her. If I'd have used the old photos, she wouldn't have got one date. And I'm a professional matchmaker. Like, I couldn't even get the dates for her if you don't give me the right photos. So investing some time in real thought process in what it is you want, really good photos, and not making assumptions, because online dating really has a way of distorting reality. Everything from height to lifestyle to everybody assumes. And we just got to get out of that assumption base. If you meet someone in person and they're not the height that you thought they were going to be, and you've met them, you don't care about the height. But if you're on an online dating profile, the prompt is basically encouraging you to want somebody over 6 feet.
Or you can do settings of, I've heard some friends say, they're like, okay, if I'm only online dating, then I want someone a high, like I'm not even, I mean, my friend was also quite tall, so she was very particular, but you never know. So,
Yeah.
okay, so going back to online dating,
Yeah.
smiling photo as the main one, and then like a full body, and then you were mentioning
More
earlier,
values based,
more values based,
right? For
and
your
yeah, so those are some great tips, and otherwise you can also contact
yes,
Jane, and Jane can help you with that. How do you feel now? You've been doing this for like 22 years, and thank you so much for sharing how you got into matchmaking. And that's so profound, that going through that experience and learning that I'm not on the path that is my heart's desire, that I want to do this. I want to know how rewarding it must be when you couple someone up, and for example, you tell me you told me you're invited to a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
Like, that must bring you so much joy.
It does.
Because it is such a personal thing, and it's so life-changing, and you're bringing so much happiness to these people. I want to hear about that.
Well, you're right. It is. I take the role that I work with my clients very seriously. I work very closely, get really personal with clients, get to know them really well, and integrity and sincerity and confidentiality. There's all the watchwords that I use when I'm doing my business, and it's really important for me. I get goosebumps sometimes, and I get the call, and the date was great. We're going to see each other again. I mean, really, that's all I can. My job is to connect people, set up the first date, follow up on feedback, and hopefully be able to get them to a second date. That's the goal of any date.
So my question is, what kind of questions do you ask your clients before you take them on? Because you must have to be, it's almost like a therapist. Like, you would have to be very because yes, you can have this level of, I have XYZ and I'm looking for XYZ who looks like this. But to have someone really, if someone is looking to get married, to have a proper match, you would need to go deeper. So what kind of questions do you ask?
Right. Nothing top secret. Let's put it that way. But
Let's see.
but they are important things that a lot of people forget to ask, and they go out on a date and they're disappointed. So height, that's a huge one. I ask people if, any drugs or smoking pot, those kinds of things that are important. Family, what relationship you have with family. Some of the dating experience, who have you dated in the past? What worked, what didn't work? Activities that you like to do and to what degrees you do them. Then I get into, in the past of, have you ever been in love before? How did it feel? And what relationships could you say were the best, and what could you draw from them on that aspect? And for some, it's very visual. So, especially for men, well, for women too, I should say. And I think that they'll share with me, show me some of the kinds of singles that you've been attracted to in the past, so that I get a feeling. If he's only dating blondes, I'm not, going to waste my time with somebody who's not a blonde, because he's going to not be attracted. Now, having said that, sometimes I go outside the box and say, hear me out. And that's where I can play sort of an advocate with my clients and be able to get them to think of things and get them to open up a little bit on things like hair color or body physique, but the realistic expectations, if they're realistic, I can work with you. If they're not, I can't. I'm not a magician.
Yeah. What do you think makes a relationship work long term? Like, in terms of your clients that you work with, what do you think,
Yeah.
the ones who've stayed and been married for long term,
Yeah.
what do you think are like traits or habits that you think that you're like, okay, that's interesting, that this is what's making this relationship work on the long in the long haul?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think love can be like three stages. First one's lust, of course, right? Second one is chemistry, attraction. Um, and then the third one is actually the commitment. So I think if you can get through, I mean, the lust is, I made some comment about that. It takes me back to March break in Fort Lauderdale, right? Everybody has lust, right? And then it's can you kiss someone? Are you attracted to them? And then that next step of actual commitment is the value, where the values start to align. And I think those are the real sort of stages that I see in couples. I had a couple that I matched almost 20 years ago, and I actually called them up because I wanted to just ask them, because they've got 6 kids between them, 15 grandkids, 7 great grandkids, and they agreed. They agreed that it does work, right? It does work. So
That's so beautiful. Now, I would love to hear what are some of the top dating trends in Vancouver, because you're the one who's in there. Of course, like I'm the one who's like dating, but you get to hear it from all perspectives, from men and women of all ages, from different backgrounds and work experiences. So, what are some of the dating trends right now that you're seeing?
yeah. Well, from a trend perspective, I don't know. I guess the dating habits. I think nobody really wants to serial date, right? And in a smaller town in city like Vancouver, I'm from Toronto. They have just as many issues as we do here in Vancouver. So everyone thinks we're different here. We're not really. We just have different activities that maybe someone in Toronto might have. We're more outdoorsy.
More mountains.
Well, yeah, we can ski it in the day and golf in the afternoon. I mean, we can do it all. But it's still the same issues and the same problems. And smaller cities, I mean, if you really sat there, swipe, you could swipe through the whole city in a night. Really. And the same rings true for the trends that ghosting. I mean, swipe left, right, you wait, you have a conversation, it's gone, right? And I think with online dating and AI and fake profiles and ghost, I mean, all of it makes sense in the end of the day. We all know when we're online, we're on Facebook, things pop up to distractions all the time. And so it's very unfocused. And it's really hard it's very cliquey. And it's always been kind of that way. Well, it is in most cities. West Van stays in West Van. Kits stays in Kits. It's the lifestyle, right?
Yeah. I know, even for me, it's like I find if someone lives like, I'm downtown, and if someone's in Abbotsford, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Yet at the same time, you have to stay open to those.
But that comes down to values,
yes,
right?
Yeah, completely.
It's like geographic location, and that's one of the questions I asked you. How far will you go? I've had some people, they won't go south of the tunnel. It's like, what? It's not Australia, But if you live in White Rock, it's more family orientated. It's more gardening. It's more, different kind of lifestyle than here, where you can go shopping, come home, shower, and be out for a drink at Joe Forte's in a nanosecond. Different kind of lifestyle. But it's not to say it's going to be like that forever. I used to live in the burbs. I got separated from my husband, moved downtown. Different lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I was in a different
part of your life.
Different
so it's
part of
like,
the life.
like it's the same for me. It's like, this is one part of my life and open to like whatever is going to happen. We were speaking earlier about books. I would love to hear, is there a or several books that you recommend to your clients and you could recommend to our audience when it comes to, like love, romance, and perhaps your own inner blocks that you may have towards finding it.
Right. So I'm a big believer in science instead of the lovey romance type stuff. So I always take cue from the real people who actually do some research on it. So the books that I tend to recommend to my clients, based on the issues that they have, or sometimes they say, gosh, my picker is off, I need some help. And, it can be something as simple as an attachment style. And there's a great book out called Attached. It's by Dr. I think Levin. And it's a wonderful way of showing people's different attachment styles. We talked about that earlier, in your cute little dog here who's right by your side, and you said, oh boy, he's really attached to me. And I'm like, oh, is that your attachment style? It really does mean a difference. Everybody has a different, for some people, being too close is too smothering. There are some basic rules and around that it's a really interesting book to read and take the test inside, and you can find out what your attachment style is. Then it gives you a guided way of telling what kind of attachment style will work for you. If I'm an anxious, secure person. That's what I am. Which means if I'm with an anxious person, it ain't gonna work. It just brings out the anxious side in me more. So when you think about things like that, it makes you, oh, I can see that in that person. Or an avoidant. Avoidants are the worst thing when you're very secure, or when you're secure, you're good. But when you're anxious, if you're with someone who's avoidant, that's like, what's wrong with me?
But they're the ones who are attracted to each other the most. I love
exactly.
that book as well.
So that's a great book. I also like a couple podcasts now. Dr. Wendy Walsh, she's fantastic. Relationship, and Esther Perel. They are two excellent relationship experts that you can see them. They do live podcasts and stuff all the time. And they also have their own books and things too. Really good books. Then there's one, if you just want to have some fun, to read about a gal. It's called Around the World in 80 Dates.
Okay, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, and it's a sort of a world dating tour. And she literally goes around the world to find her guy. And she's got friends all over the world. She was a journalist, like you, that had friends everywhere. And she said, look, she put together her love plan, her list, and she got together her date wrangler, she called them, and said, I want to meet a guy who's this. Here you go. I'm going to be in town on this date. Set up a date with me who you think's the best match, and I'll go on it.
I love that. That's our new show.
She went around the world in 80 dates. It's the most heartwarming. I couldn't put it down. I laughed. I cried. Hilarious situations I'm sure all of you could relate to, but some really good ones too. And she really learned about herself. And does she meet her guy? Well, read it, I guess. But yeah, she does.
It's quite fascinating that I would love to read this book.
I won't tell you what number he was, though.
Okay. Don't tell me. I'm going to add it to my reading list. But it's fascinating, as we were discussing earlier. I was living in Paris, before COVID. I came back just in time, 2020, before the lockdown. And in Paris, in my first year there, I was in a relationship. And I did date in Paris, like before the relationship and afterwards. And I did find it very fascinating, the cultural dating differences from there to here. Romance and seduction is such a thing, and wanting to get into a relationship. Like every people there, and for Parisians and for the French, if you kiss, it's like, okay, we're dating. And then if you're intimate, you never have define the relationship conversation. It's like you are in, yes. So I found that very fascinating. I remember having
Yes.
it with my, then boyfriend in Paris, and
Yeah.
it's like, in French, it
Totally.
was like the way it would translate is, no, but of course you're my wife. It's like you are my woman. Even if your worst is dating in Vancouver, I did find that a bit jarring coming back here.
Where it's
That
totally.
the,
Same rings true with American and in Toronto, because I have time and time again heard that men, specifically, and women too, but they're more open in Toronto and bigger cities, New York and all through the states. Yeah, American men, they just they'll approach. Not
I,
here.
I have experience
As
of
much.
yes, no, I have experience of that for sure. Or coming to meet from like long distances, and I guess these are
But
the
women too.
yes.
Trust me. I don't know how many times I've seen walking down the street with their nose in their phone,
I'm
and
guilty of that.
yeah, it's like, okay, you've just missed every great guy walking by you.
So there's a few habit changes that I'm thinking of as I'm talking to you. And I am being mindful. I'm super into listening to podcasts as well as audiobooks, and they talk about, the power of yes. That is something that you've talked about. Even if you show up for, say, half an hour and like leave without saying goodbye, or perhaps there's someone who you connected with, but perhaps you can exchange numbers or Instagram or email, whatever. And those are some great book recommendations that you gave me. I would love to hear how to make a great impression on a first date.
Well, the number one mistake everybody makes is interview or dating, right? So, and I find that people who are that are psychologists or coaches or counselors or whatever tend to date like they're interviewing, right? Or coaching. And sometimes you have to step out of that mold and your brain and try to just go and live in the moment. People don't live in the moment, and you miss everything. How wonderful to meet someone, and you show up and you give respect to each other, that their time is busy too. Everyone's busy, but you both have the same goal, is to meet someone. And how wonderful to respect that, honestly respect that. And we obviously don't have a connection, but good luck on your search, right? How positive could that be? Or, hey, I'm having a party this Saturday, come meet some of my friends. That's how it all happens. But showing up is more than half the battle, with enthusiasm. Because the minute you go there thinking, oh, this is going to be bad, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And he's going to sense it. She's going to sense it. Wow, it's not good.
Do you suggest like a time limit for a first date? What would you say is an ideal first date?
Yes.
Like, is it, I know this is definitely a no-no, but is it watching a movie? Is it going for a stroll, going to a restaurant, eating, bar, or doing an activity? What is like a good first date in your opinion?
So I always say the first date is kind of like a meet and greet, right? So, and it's always nice, not coffee, that's going for a business meeting, but a drink. Happy hour, a drink, it's an hour. There's sort of an expectation, it's one drink. You don't have to stay there all night, but if you're having a great time, you can stay there. And that's what I do for all my clients when I actually set up the dates for them. I make a reservation. And they go in there knowing, he's going to buy me a glass of wine, and it's an hour, and if it's good, okay. If it's not, it's nice to meet you. I can, actually walk away and say, that was really nice to meet someone. You just never know. I've had some people who've met and they've had so much in common, and they were like 3 hours chatting, but they didn't have a romantic connection. And now they're exchanging some business stuff and networking, and it's just wonderful to be able to do that kind of networking.
I feel like the message that I'm also getting from you, I know you're not a super woo-woo person like I am, but to be more open-hearted, to keep your energy and heart open instead of,
Well, yes, start saying yes, right? That's one of my new rules for me personally. I work with a personal coach as well, and I'm coming into some different phases of my life and getting older and dealing with certain things in my life, and it's time to say, yes. I never miss an opportunity. Someone says, you want to go to this? Well, I've never done it. I'd rather go on the water boating, but you know what? Yes, let's do it. And I've had so many new experiences just from it, not dating, but just from it.
In life, in
life,
general. And
in
I
general.
think when you look at life from that perspective, it just opens you up. And I believe it's in your energetic field that you're just that open person who perhaps, say hello to the person who's standing in the line or who is the cashier. And I think making those little habits,
little tweaks,
little changes. I was listening to a podcast, someone was saying, even if it's not someone you're romantically or remotely interested in, just being open to saying hello to people, then you become that person. That becomes your habit, that you're this ray of sunshine, this open person who is open to the universe and to the world. Now this brings me to another interesting question, which is, how do you kindly, gently turn someone down? Instead of just disappearing or ghosting, because it can be uncomfortable for us, for a lot of us, it can be uncomfortable to be like, I'm not interested, or I didn't feel a spark. So what would you say is like an ethical, kind way to say that?
Be honest. I think that because they may be feeling the exact same thing and they're not quite sure how to do it too. If you've got a gut feeling, you've got a gut feeling. I mean, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, of course, but if you're not feeling it, you're not giving him the signals he's feeling it. And so, just being honest and say, I just really don't feel we have enough in common. And if, it gets to the point where you're feeling, oh my gosh, this isn't going the way, he's not accepting that, you can actually just politely say, the last person I was dating, we've decided to go exclusive, and out of courtesy to you, I decided to come and, and they'll get it pretty fast.
Those are some great tips, Jane. Before we let you go, is there anything else any advice or hot tips that you would like to give our hopeful singles? Temperatures are warming up. We're going to have a beautiful summer here in Vancouver. Anything that we may have missed today?
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot today, but I think I think it's just getting to know yourself better, getting to date yourself better, getting to be more open, and getting to say yes more, whether it be in dating or just anything in life. And, it's not a bad thing to reach out to someone and talk to people about it and have an advocate about it. I'm totally open. Anybody can call me anytime. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. And that's, really how it all can start, right? I've had conversations on the phone with people who have called me, and it's changed their life, and it actually changed their way of thinking. So I felt really good about that.
Well, I feel really inspired. Now, before I let you go, I would like to know what inspires you in life in general.
Oh, wow. I don't know. I think every day is a different day. Every person is a different person. Every challenge, or I look at it as projects, I get excited about something that is different for me. Because if everybody was the same, it would be really boring, really boring. And everyone is so different in what they're looking for, and so different. And I'm really honored to be a part of that process and work with my clients and it makes me really happy at the end of the day that I've done something really good. And I get lots of people referring me or talking. I always get seated at the singles table at every wedding that I go to, and I'm constantly working, but I love it, so it's okay.
It sounds like you're a people person, a very positive people person. Where do you like to go in Vancouver to get inspired?
The ocean. Yeah.
You were mentioning boating earlier.
Yeah, I love boating. Yeah.
Invite me next time.
Yeah. I've been boating for quite a few years, so yeah, the ocean is one of the reasons that I'm still here. I love it. I won't, my family says, "When are you coming home?" I am home. Yeah, the smell of the salt water, the ocean, beautiful.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and if we will make sure to share your information with our audience, and if you have any questions or any feedback for Jane, please get
Call
in touch.
me.
Yeah. And you have a website as well?
Oh yeah, matchmakerforhire.com. Yeah.
Thank you, Jane. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah.